July wraps up and we net 50,000+ on 4 properties in 1 month. Busy season, of course, right? But I was like, this is nuts. I've never made this money in my life, let alone working an hour a week from my phone.
Where's the best bang for your buck, in your opinion?
Right now, I like the most important thing is to find a sustainable market and find the perfect opportunity where you've done due diligence and the numbers make complete sense and you have upside. If you just do that, you're going to be pretty successful.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. Today, I've got a dynamo in the Airbnb world, Michael Elefante. He's a short-term real estate investor, entrepreneur. He's got 8 short-term rentals, and he's got a ton of experience managing over 300 short-term rentals across the USA. Michael, welcome to the show.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you and hear about your story and your journey, how you got started in real estate, what attracted you, where you're from, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, super pumped. You tell me where you want to start. I can go down all sorts of rabbit holes. So,
well, I guess, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. My whole family's from the Northeast. My parents moved down to North Carolina when I was about just under 1 year old. I have 2 brothers, so grew up there. And then eventually I was a college athlete, so I was hoping to play baseball professionally. Once that dream came to a screaming halt, I had to figure out what I wanted to do. Just picked everything up, moved out to Dallas, Texas, lived in Dallas, Austin, then Nashville. Started to get into real estate back in 2019 into short-term rentals.
How old are you?
I'm 31. I feel like after 30, I'm starting to lose count. I'm like, how old am I?
Oh, dude, wait. Yeah, 30 is like the first
you
turn.
Wanting to count, yeah.
Yeah, like you're between 20 and 30. It's like it's going slow, and then game over. I'm curious. So this is just totally random, but I woke up in the middle last night and I was like, I can't go back to bed. I'm going to see what's on Netflix. And so I see like this thing, I Hate Christian Laettner, which I was a big Christian Laettner fan. And you said Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That's probably just about the time that I was watching that. Like, as an athlete and competitor, like, is that guy like a folk hero in that area? Or like,
how is he? I feel like he was hated pretty hard, especially by UNC and other rivals, right? But yeah, that rivalry is dynamite. I mean, I don't think there's a better rivalry in sports, honestly. And they're so close to each other too. Durham just being like 20 minutes away from Chapel Hill.
Yeah, it's like Tobacco Road or something like that. Is what it's called. Mm-hmm. How was it growing up in that area?
It's fun. I mean, it's a college town environment. Small towns. Grown a lot since I've left, actually. But yeah, everything kind of lives and breathes around the universities, between sports, the healthcare system, jobs, all that good stuff. Then you got Raleigh too, where NC State is. They like to say they're also a big rival, but they're kind of like secondary to UNC Duke. But they're
for sure,
big state school.
So you were trying to play pro ball, or did you play pro ball?
No, I wish, or maybe not. I don't at this point, but no, I played baseball at Elon University, which is about 45 minutes west of Chapel Hill, Division I school. Had an okay career. I was a pitcher, and then had some injuries. Didn't perform quite as well my last year or two, and was hoping to get drafted. Didn't get the call, and then I was just like, "What do I do with my life?" You pour so much of your time and your effort and your thoughts every day into one thing. And when that gets taken away, I can totally see, especially people who play professionally in whatever sport until their 30s or 40s even, like they probably have a really hard time, much harder than I did, when that ends. Because like, what do you do? You have to figure out somewhere else to spend your time, or a lot of people have to figure out where else to make money, and you kind of start from ground zero as an athlete.
I coached a professional baseball player, Ryan Healy, who has actually been one of my junior coaches and stuff. And yeah, for him, that was like major deal. Like he's like, it's your whole identity, right? Like, and you go into the majors, and the one question that jumped right out at me when you said that is like, my son, he's playing baseball right now, and that whole journey. And I'm like, he's a catcher. And I'm like, dude, the guy who has the most pressure is the pitcher. I'm like, and he's like, no, the catcher. Like, you haven't even pitched before. So he pitches one time, and I'm like, what do you think now? And he's like, definitely the pitcher. So when you're on that mound, like, and I just kind of want to go like to like where you're at now. Is like, so you've obviously competing at athleticism is like, I think it like, put yourself out there. You're in front of a crowd. You got to perform. You have to have lots of discipline, lots of strength and conditioning. It's not done on the field that wins the game. It's what's done off the field. You got to perform on the field. There could even be some guys who perform well on practice and then choke artists, right? Like, so there's a whole dynamic there. Like, how did your ability to like become a pitcher affect like what you're doing right now?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Honestly, it's the repetitions that you have to do off the field. You have to build upon your strengths, but you have to correct a lot of areas that you're weak in or uncomfortable in. And change is never comfortable, not just in sports, but any aspect of life, right? So identifying what your weaknesses are and what is going to actually build you the foundation to start to perform or get to that next level. So it's always just that constant state of improvement. I think that's why a lot of athletes, I think, are very successful in sales or as entrepreneurs, because they're used to failing and not giving up. Like, what do I do next? What do I do next? So I think that played a big part into getting into real estate and just wanting more and just, taking each failure with a grain of salt and just building on it.
Yeah. So like, where are you at in your journey right now? And how did it start? How did the Airbnb thing become like a deal?
Oh man, I just hated work so much because I think I was working, just chasing a career that I had no interest in doing. It was just like, I heard you could make money in the tech space. I was like, I'll do sales. Hated it. I did not like sales. I didn't think I was even that good at it. So I was like, you know what? If I just make a little more money, get a promotion, I'd be happy. So I did that a few times. Never got more happiness. Life got more comfortable, but I actually got more miserable at the same time in some aspects. So then I was like, you know what? I need to learn about this whole financial freedom thing. So a lot of those roads lead to making money online and investing in real estate. Didn't know how to do this.
Is that like a Google search for you?
Yeah, Google search, YouTube. I was diving into a bunch of books and podcasts, like passive income type stuff. And so a lot of those roads do lead to real estate, wealth accumulation, cash flow, enough to pay for your living expenses, right? So that's what I was after. I built a 10-year plan. I was like, I'm going to try and get enough property so I can cash flow 10 grand, 15 grand every month, and I'll quit my job. So then I learned about short-term rentals because I started to do the math. I'm like, $200 a door. I'm going to need 50 doors to cash flow, 10 grand a month. I was like, that seems exhausting. And that seems like it's so far out of my reach. So I learned about short-term rentals and I was like, if you can really build a decent experience and know how to price your property, it seems like there's major upside here. And I was like, I felt like I was missing something. I was like, there's no way. Finally built up the courage and bought a property. And our third month, this is right before COVID hit, we were set to net like $7 grand in 1 month. And this is on a sub $500,000 purchase. Our ROI was through the roof. I'm like, this is crazy. It's all in. So we sold our retirement accounts out, took the penalty, paid the taxes, got our second property. Then COVID hit, which we worked through and pivoted a little bit on market selection for our next few. But fast forward a little bit, we had
COVID was, if you like to just backtrack a little bit, like, so I've been in the Airbnb space since 2016. I've not been like my buddy scaled kind of like you. He would build them brand new houses. New Orleans was the market. Like we were getting $900, $1,000 a night. Like it's a really good market, New Orleans. And I was like, I'm very like in some way I'm risk happy. In some ways I'm risk adverse. I just didn't feel like building houses for Airbnbs, but he went all in on his business. But when COVID happened, I have like 4 down there, 1, me and my wife, and 3 with my partner. And they got wiped. I mean, like wiped clean for 2 or 3 months, like of reservations, like day one. Right. Yeah. And so you're like, oh, and like for him, I think he lost like several hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I just wanted to like let people know how impactful that was. And then I want you to kind of explain how things have changed because they have big time since COVID.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for us, we had 40,000 in cancellations in like a 2-week period, and that was on one property. And I can't imagine. I'll never forget the guy who built the property that I bought. He came up to me one day at the door because he was fixing something for me, and he's like, "Yeah, I had 1.7 million canceled." And I said, "Wow, okay, I don't have it that bad." But you work through it. But I pivoted because after the 2 months of lockdowns, I saw all the travel go to rural places.
Yeah,
Joshua Tree, the Smoky Mountains that already were good destinations, but they were just like crazy demand and not enough supply. And you know how that
and no regulations.
And and very limited, if not just no regulations. So everyone was buying property there. So we pivoted, bought one out there, and we had 3. And this is November of 2020. I'll never forget it. It's 11 months after we bought our first property listed on Airbnb, we were basically financially free. We had our 10-year plan, and this is me and my wife, in 1 year, less than 1 year. We cash flowed like 14 grand. Then that December, we cash flowed over 20 grand. And I was like, this is freaking nuts, So I was so all in. And part of it was the COVID boom with like the Gatlinburg stuff. So we bought a fourth one, quit our jobs, bought a camper van, and traveled around the US for a year.
Way to go. That's that's how you live life.
It was amazing. Our expenses were almost nothing. We had almost nothing. And yet we had all this money pouring in. This is before I was able to make money online too. I'll never forget, we're in camper van, have barely any cell service. We're out in Montana. Yeah. And July wraps up and we net 50,000+ on 4 properties in 1 month. Busy season, of course, right? But I was like, this is nuts. I've never made this money in my life, let alone working an hour a week from my phone.
So for those of you guys who think that money cannot buy happiness, what it can buy is freedom and experiences and like traveling around the world in a camper, and the ability to do that is because you're either broke as hell and that's like everything, or it's because you want to do it. You can. Yeah.
There's 3 types of people. We were one of them, and we didn't meet a single other person in our position. I'm sure there were out there, but the other 2 types that we met on the road, we met a lot of people in vans and trailers, whatever, where it's either retired. 65 to 80 years old, retired, and they're just kind of slugging it out, but they can only like do some sightseeing. They're like, I wish I did what we did when you were young, because then I could actually enjoy the hikes, this and that. Or the other person, you're right, they're like barely scraping by, like
they're doing it the old school way, which is like, hey, I'm just going to hitchhike across the country and like not let my financial journey determine anything, but which is cool too. I like that road well, but I don't like the road being 65 decrepit and all my good years behind me to go enjoy things. And so that's cool that you did that. I'm sure it's an unreal experience. And I'm looking to hear about many more. Now tell me about your family, Michael, like what's going on there, because now those are like new experiences and journeys. And I'm sure there's baseball in the lineup there, right?
Yeah. In the future for sure. So after the camper van trip, my wife got pregnant, and we settled down, in South Carolina, just outside of Greenville, and had our first daughter, which was awesome. And she's about 1.5 years old now, and we love it. And the best part about having a kid in this position is we were able to become financially free before even having kids, which we're grateful for. So then it's like, we don't have the pressure of leaving the house and working every day, or she doesn't have to worry about after maternity leave to leave and put her in daycare or something. So we get to raise our daughter and future kids, and be there as much as we want, without constraints, financially or time constraints, which is that you can't put a price tag on how valuable that is. And I think a lot of people out there can relate to that have families.
Would you say that you're working like as hard, harder, or like how has that been for you? Like, I know for me, sometimes I'm like, okay, just like end everything, because I could do it like easily. I could have done it 10 years ago. And it's just like, I enjoy the hunt, the grind, all the things like that. And so I wonder if I'll have regrets, as I go on in the future, like, oh, I should have slowed down and did a little bit more smell on the roses. But like, where's your mindset at on things like that?
Yeah. So I've definitely worked more now than I did, in last year, the year before that. But the only reason I started working more is because I had the option to. It was not out of necessity. Like, I have to get a job to pay my bills. It was, I'm financially free. I have this income over here and I have all this time. What do I want to do that I'm good at and I'm actually have a passion for? And if I can build a business that I own out of it and see if I like it. So that's what I ended up doing. And now I have 3 or 4 businesses that operate, multiple of them really without much of my presence. But I have a big impact on them because of the social media profile I've been able to build up and trust with the industry and the audience that I have. So it's just been super fun. So I actually love business, which I never thought I would, because I hated my job so much. I know that's really hard for most people to comprehend, because I would have called BS on myself hearing this 5 years ago if I was listening. So it's just more like you have the option to do it. You're not forced to do it for a paycheck, food on the table. Now there is a point in time where I think I'll probably scale back a little bit more, but I've already done, the camper van, like, no obligations, no kids. And I can wake up and literally do whatever I want. But eventually that can get a little bit boring for people.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
wants to actually sit on a beach with a beer in their hand every day. You're just going to get miserable.
Yeah, it's called a drunk. Like, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm just kind of taking it year by year. But honestly, it's kind of fun right now. I still have the flexibility. Like I don't work 40 hours a week. I don't work a ton. It's really, I try and stack my days to where Monday and Tuesday are super heavy, checking in on the business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meetings. Wednesdays and Fridays, I block off for some creative work or free time with my family. And I'm work from home. So it's not like I'm going anywhere. If I ever need to block days or calendars off, and we could just pick up and go on a 2-week vacation and not worry about anything.
Yeah, it's cool. And I think one thing to mention is like the Michael Elefante who worked his job is probably not the same guy as the one who's now business owner, because like you understand all of the toughness that comes with owning a business, the interesting side of having guests and managing them, and like all that whole psychology there and influence and all that jazz. And you're probably coming now with maybe a different need column or a want column than you had before. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, because like, you know, where I'm at now is nowhere where I started, and it's a different chapter, right? In my life right now, it's like my needs are like greater and bigger, and I'll spend more money on stuff that I want because I can. And I'm sure it's just much the same for you. And it's like, and now it becomes fun. And I think that's one thing that's super cool that we both have in common is like, once you enjoy something, and for me, the biggest thing is I've been telling people about real estate for 20 freaking years. And then the minute I saw guys go online and start coaching, I'm like, I know way more than a lot of the, like, 99% of the people online, I'm just going to say, in terms of the real estate space, not talking about you and Airbnb, I'm just talking about in general overall knowledge. And I said, like, and I love this stuff. I'm passionate about it. I can tell that you're passionate about it. And then all your friends and everybody, nobody ever listens to you and even pays attention to you. But then all these strangers want to pay you, which is like the craziest thing. Like all your friends and family see the success. I'm sure they do, right? And they're like, are they even hitting you up for it, or they're just like, good luck, right?
I have noticed that I've had some college teammates or friends or acquaintances from even high school, or even my wife's, that have actually paid for coaching, and now they're crushing it with Airbnb. But, you know, I have offered like some free coaching, whatever, like to friends, family, and not all, but usually the people who just kind of get access to it they don't have any skin in the game on their own.
Yeah.
They never really take action because they don't feel that they're really bought in or pressured. And I don't want them to feel that way, but it's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But I am always surprised. My wife and I talk about this very frequently. Like some of the friends that have known us for years, especially when we first started, it's like we kind of started from the bottom when it came to all this. And it's just each year they see you putting in work or posting online, and it's just, like you've seen these like GIFs or whatever you want, GIFs, whatever you want to call them, where people will just be like making fun of others who are starting a business. I have this crazy idea. It's like, man, that'll never work. You're stupid. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you posting those videos on social media? Then like a couple of years go by and they're like, damn, must be nice. Like whatever, you know, overnight success. And it's, I don't know. There's a little bit of both.
Yeah, your friendships change too, and that's what, you know. Sometimes it's kind of difficult as you look at like your high school friends, and you know, you could have these long relationships with people, but like just relationships change because when you get into business, you're trying to meet other people that are like-minded like you, right? And sometimes your friends are not like-minded; they're just your friends, and you've had them forever and stuff like that. You got a lot of the same common interests, same common like backgrounds. But like you're also trying to strategically align with people who are maybe further than you. Like in baseball, I would imagine you'd want to play with the best of the best pitchers, not the guys that are just that you've been playing with for years, right?
Yeah, no, you make a great point. I mean, I think the problems that you have just day to day in life, some are the same, but some are also very different, especially when it comes to business or work. So it's not that I can relate to almost anyone, but I can't relate on every aspect, you know? So sometimes it becomes a challenge when somebody or a friend brings up a certain problem or something's going on in their life. And you kind of just like, oh man, yeah, I totally hear you. But it's not, you can't necessarily relate because it's just different, you know? And you're right. Some of the people that I speak most with today are those I've met that are also either entrepreneurs, they are content creators, because you relate to what they're going through day to day. Their struggles are more similar to your struggles, and you can be a little bit more open on monetary things, and it's not weird to talk about, where it's very faux pas to talk about money. Um,
Yeah,
and it's
I forget that all the time. I probably put my foot in my mouth way too much talking about stuff.
But it's uncomfortable almost to not talk about it. I like to openly talk about it. I don't care how much someone else is making. I'd love to hear if somebody's making 10 times what I'm making, because I'm like, well, how are you doing that? Like, tell me, what are you doing each day, So it's almost exciting to have those open conversations. But I think that's what these groups that, I pay for a lot of coaching and mentorship myself. I don't just sell it. And some of my best relationships and biggest growth in my personal life and business has come from those engagements of people that I've met. I'm probably same for you.
Yeah, and it's the funniest thing is usually the mentorship is the least part of it's the connections that you make in the mentorship that you even like. I tell my students, I'm like, connect, guys, like, because the guy who's on the journey with you, he's going to be able to relate to you and explain something differently than like me or that idea. But 100%, I've always tried to make connections and relationships and build and make the next connection and make the next connection and make the next connection, because life's all about relationships and who you know and not what you know, because you can know a lot, not know anybody, and nothing's going to get done.
Yeah.
So where you're at right now, you have you have several of your own Airbnbs. You have a management company. You're teaching other people how to do that. Like, talk to somebody who's like brand new out there, thinking about getting in started in real estate, looking to do Airbnb, looking to do Airbnb arbitrage, worried about like some of the things they've heard about Airbnb. Like, what would you tell somebody who's thinking about getting into real estate right now and Airbnb specifically?
I say if you have to just do due diligence on the market and then learn how to analyze properties and leverage data that's available to anybody out there on sites like REBUTTALS. There's a bunch of them. But if you can do that, you're already doing 90% more due diligence than 90% of other people that are thinking about getting started in Airbnb. I can't tell you how many people they see somebody like me or someone else. Oh, I made this much money in this city and state. So they just go find some property that may look similar, but it may not be the same neighborhood, the same zip code, the same features, same amenities, same this, that, and the other. And then they throw it up. They also don't look up how to manage or automate it, and then they struggle. So if you're looking to get started, if you're going to do it on your own, just try and learn how to do some due diligence on market research, understand regulations, what the writing on the wall is, what type of market it is. Is it an urban, a vacation market, more of a fly-to destination? How, the economy is going to impact that through different cycles, because each one will react different, or to a COVID scenario, happening. If you can understand those things, understand just how to basically run a basic pro forma and leverage data and see what comps are doing, like this 3-bedroom property is very similar. It's doing these numbers revenue-wise. Plug it into my little spreadsheet or online calculator, and I'm hitting my targeted return and cash flow. It's as simple as that, and then just rinse and repeating until you get really good at it. That's how you break into it and be successful.
Yeah, you guys just take action and stop, and then don't take dumb action. Don't just be like, I'm jumping out without the parachute, right? Like, go and do a little bit of due diligence. What do you think, Michael, like the best mixture is? Is it rural? Is it like, where's the best bang for your buck in your opinion?
Right now, I like mid to large size vacation markets that are driving distance to one or more major metro areas that are growing in population. So it's kind of a lot I threw out there, but the reason I like driving distance,
like visually, I'm like, okay.
Think about why the Smokies has been so successful, or the North Carolina, Georgia mountains, or 30A in Florida. Well, people drive to those destinations for their family vacation. People save up all their money, put it all on a credit card, and go all out on one vacation a year. They're always going to go there. The reason number one that is great is because they might not travel during economic downturn or recession. They may not pay for plane tickets, lift tickets in Aspen or Breckenridge or something like that, pay for the Uber ride or the rental car, all these other expenses that come with it, but they will get their family, take their PTO, hop in the car, drive down to 30A to Destin, Florida, and enjoy the beach, because they really just have to pay for groceries and then the accommodation costs. So the total cost to somebody is going to be a lot less when you're thinking about the whole picture of the vacation. That's one. The reason I say driving distance from growing populations is because, let's say, Nashville's growing, Chattanooga's growing, Knoxville's growing, Atlanta, Raleigh, Charlotte, Greenville, all these places are growing. What are those new people doing when they get to a new, fun, exciting city? They're exploring the city, But what are they doing with their spouse or their kids? Hey guys, where are we going to go? Let's just hop in the car and explore. We're near the beach now. We're near the mountains. So they're going to start hitting up those places. So there's already established tourism, but because there's growing population, now there's a bigger demand pool for those areas. So that's what I look at.
That's super smart, Michael. We're literally like, I'm like, hey, honey, we just moved to Kansas City like a couple of years ago. I'm like, let's go check out Arkansas. Like, we'll find an Airbnb, like it's 5 hours away.
Yeah.
So totally. Yeah.
So that's like what I would do starting out as far as like location selection and understanding some of, longer term or bigger picture. Like a lot of people make the mistake of, what's the perfect market, Michael? What is the perfect market that I should invest in? What is the number one market in the country? I'm like that's the wrong question because there is no answer. If there was, everyone would be investing there and hitting home runs every investment. The most important thing is to find a sustainable market and find the perfect opportunity where you've done due diligence and the numbers make complete sense and you have upside. If you can do that, aside from, we'll get into this later probably, of like designing and amenitizing your property to eliminate competition altogether, if you just do that, you're going to be pretty successful.
Well, I think let's transition into that right now because you know your stuff, and let's go with it. Because my wife does all this. She's an super host 7 years running. She'll remind you, and but yeah, it's super important to get that 5-star review and everything like that. You want to talk about how you do it and what you teach other people to do?
Yeah. So the way I just explain this is I call it it's really the short-term rental, but the Airbnb perpetual life cycle. So in order to get booked, you have to appear on Airbnb search, right? It's like a Google search. So people will use filters, they'll search specific dates, number of guests, whatever. If you do not appear on search, you're not going to get booked. Now, if you don't appear high on search, the chances somebody's going to get to like the 6th page of a Google search to find the web page they're looking for. Same thing with Airbnb. And Airbnb operates like a search engine, which most people don't think about. Airbnb wants to put what they think you're interested in and willing to book as fast as possible so you don't go to Vrbo, Booking.com, Expedia, or a hotel.
Yeah.
So if you don't, then whatever showed up for them they're going to probably place lower on similar search profiles the next time it comes around. So in order to start appearing higher in search, you have to get clicked on and you have to have a good conversion rate. And if you're getting converted, that means you're getting bookings. The more bookings you get, the more reviews you're going to get. The more positive reviews you're going to get is also going to help you place higher in search. So this is where the life cycle starts to happen because the more bookings you have, the less availability you have, the higher you can typically price because people are going to perceive higher search ranking results, superhost, unique property, limited availability. Like, I got to book it, right? There's a reason there's 100 5-star reviews. So now it starts to rank higher, more bookings, more revenue, more cash flow. So that's the biggest thing. And how do you differentiate yourself is through design and amenities, aside from picking the perfect location, because two properties can be side by side. And I can give you an example of one of mine in Nashville. One is hyper themed bachelorette. And I'm not saying you have to hyper niche out in every single market.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are scared to, go hyper themed because they're like, well, then I'm eliminating 90% of the audience that might be looking to go to Nashville. I'm like, you're missing the point. And now you're competing with 90% of the other people in the properties in the market. And it's more of a competing on price. If I can sell somebody on value, a group of 12 girls, that is a vacation, a trip of a lifetime that is supposed to happen once for the bride, right? They're willing to spend an absurd amount of money, especially if you have moments within the property. That's an experience in itself.
Oh, yeah, that's smart. This is all your wife, I can tell you right now.
It is, but it's also, so I have a design company and the girls that run the day-to-day there, my business partners, we've kind of proven this model a few times and now it's just all data focused. And if you look at each market's a little bit different. Who's traveling there? Who spends the most money? What are they willing to spend it on and why? If you can answer those questions and execute, you will destroy your competition. Because what happens in a time where demand suffers, everyone else competes on price and somebody's still willing to pay for the value and the experience.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, even like we're looking at, we use Airbnb for traveling, as many people do. And we're going to Europe this year and my wife's already planning it out. She's like, okay, this is a good deal because this host hasn't put this one live yet, but he's got 10 other 5-star properties. So we know that he knows what he's doing. We're going to get a good product. We'll take the risk, save some money. But it makes a lot of sense that, just I'm not in that world at all, like with Airbnb, other than owning the properties. But I can tell, like I talk to a lot of people and you're very intelligent about what you do. So I would definitely trust you to manage my properties. How do you deal with a couple things? One, like what do you charge your customers for people that you rent to? And then how do you deal with negative reviews? Like we just encountered one. I helped my wife through it. She has never had them before, but we're dealing with like a C class product that we turned into a midterm. And as you know, people who pay $50 a night for stuff don't appreciate it as much as the people who pay 500.
Yeah, for sure. Most of my personal properties in the more like as I've scaled are definitely not necessarily luxury, but premium.
Yeah.
Because they're bigger, they sleep 12 to 20 people, they have crazy amenities, they're themed out. So people are spending an average of $1,500 a night at those types of places.
It's nice.
So the cash flow is massive, but you also eliminate, unless there's a major problem with the property, you kind of already hinted at this, but a lot of people who are asking for discounts or pinching pennies to level up and get like the best property they can versus someone is like, oh, that's a sick property. I don't even care about the price. Just throw it on the card. I'm taking my family here. Yeah. Those people usually give you less headache unless there's a major problem, like there's no running water and they're like, I paid this much for this place. Like, how are we going to fix this? So
or internet.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to mitigate bad reviews is to properly set expectations and have a great experience for people. I think where you run into a lot of review issues is if you don't disclose something that is really obvious or an important part of a listing, like they think it's a private backyard, but it's shared, or there's a dog next door or a fire station that blares alarms 3 times a day or in the middle of the night. So I think as long as you state that in your listing, hey, by the way, there's this here, here's the quirks of the house. People are not going to be upset because you already disclosed it. And the second reason that's important is because if you do disclose it, even if it's at the bottom of a 600-word essay of a listing, you disclosed it. So if someone reviews your property and says, well, this happened in the property or this is in the property, and you can actually go to Airbnb and say this was disclosed to the guest one or multiple times. So that's not a fair review because they booked it with good conscience. They should have known that. And if that's the case,
that is right there. That's the gold. Like, can you repeat that? Because I don't think people understand, like, this is a tactical approach to eliminating reviews. Like, because you could get bummed out or you could just take action and realize it's business and do exactly what Michael said right now. So will you break down step by step how somebody can eliminate a negative review by properly disclosing? Because that is what happens. And normally it's, hey, if you disclose it, why would you be complaining about it? But people are still going to give the bad review because they didn't do their due diligence.
Yeah, for sure. It's just listing out any quirk of the house in the listing, also in the welcome instructions or the check-in instructions. I like to do it in multiple different areas. That way it's both in a message. A lot of people just don't read that stuff, right? Or in the description. And as long as it's disclosed, like a security camera, you have to disclose it's on the front door, how often it's recording, if it's 24/7, why it's there, where it's pointing. And if somebody ever complains about that, it's like it was disclosed multiple times, like 3 different times. Here it is. Airbnb will take that review down all day long. And I've gotten dozens taken down, not dozens, maybe 10 to 15 that someone had complained. The second type of bad review that you might get is somebody complains that, oh, this is dirty or this isn't working or whatever. You can kind of go back and fight it, especially if you have your cleaners take pictures. This is all stuff you can prevent. Cleaners could take pictures of every room, every space, every bathroom before a guest checks in after it's clean. So if a guest sends you a photo, I've had people do this where almost like they make up some mess that was there. And we show proof that it's not with timestamp photos. It's really easy to make a case why you should have that review removed. It's not always easy to do, but it's doable. And you're right, it's important to do it because reviews can really make or break you, like any service.
That's why it's so important. If you lose that superhost status, and especially like as you're scaling like you, it just affects the whole downline, right? Like if you got 7 or 8 properties, 9, 10 properties connected to that or your portfolio, like you got to manage not only the expectations of the guests, but you got to manage the nutcases out there that just are not going to read or do anything, and then use their basically vindication card as I gotcha. And the power of the review is so, like, I'll give you an example, just on an old personal experience that has nothing to do with Airbnb. Oh, this is where I knew that like basically what you just explained could be done, even though I hadn't looked into it before, because I had written 2 4-star reviews on my account and both of them got eliminated, and they were both relevant. Like, and I was like, what the hell? Like complete BS, like sloppy houses, like non-disclosed stuff. And I just was a little bit light on them, but I wrote the review. My wife is always 5-star no matter what, but you can tell a good 5-star. I know you can tell a good 5-star review from one that people just got the 5-star review. They're completely different experiences in terms of how the people write and stuff like that. And my wife was like, yeah, you'll be able to tell. And when she said that, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're 5 stars. Then I read one. I was like, oh, this is actuality versus people doing it just to do it, which honestly, Airbnb doesn't matter or anything like that, Michael. But how do you guys get that wow factor in your properties?
Yeah. Well, one thing I actually wanted to bring up before I forget it is,
sure.
Do you know what percentage of hosts are super hosts?
God, no idea. 0.
Take a guess.
11.
It's actually lower than I would have had you guess, but 20.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard to maintain superhost status. But then you look at 80% of hosts in the world can't maintain that 4.8 or better with the cancellation rate below 1 and a couple other key factors but it helps you so much. And I didn't realize it. You're one of 20%. That gives you such a leg up in getting seen, getting booked, building trust. So it is a big deal, more so than I used to think. In terms of the wow factor, so 2 things, design and amenities. In design, you really need a cohesive design. The walls shouldn't all just be like your own home, because people want to pay for an experience. They want to pay for things they don't experience every day. That's the whole reason they're on vacation. People may not want to live in a room with a pink ceiling and, disco balls hanging from it, bachelorette theme, but they will pay for 3 nights of it because they get the photo moment, they get the videos, they get the memory, the experience. So it depends on where it's located, but for me, the biggest thing is amenities beyond just like really great design.
What's the craziest thing you guys have done? Because it sounds like you guys have done some pretty interesting designs.
In terms of design, one of our national properties is way over the top bachelorette theme. Murals, lighted signs everywhere, pink ceilings, globes, karaoke, like ping pong, rooftop, like way over the top. But we redesigned that place, and the result of that was our booking lead time went from 50 nights to 80 nights. Our ADR went up like 30 to 40%. It was just crazy. Overnight change in the rental demand. And the ones next door, 2 identical homes, are renting for like 50% less than us, which is crazy.
Wow.
So that's the power of design and some amenities. Like, it is a massive impact. And a lot of people skimp on it because they view it as a cost versus an investment into future bookings and differentiation. Amenities are really crucial. So what I'll do is I'll create something called a buy box. So when you're evaluating a market, you look on your DNA, great, everyone does that. You need to go make a list of what all the top properties have. What do they all have that's non-negotiable? In Gatlinburg, that's a game room, a hot tub, maybe something else, movie theater. And then what are the nice to haves or over the top? You need at least one, ideally like 3 things that very few or maybe nobody has. If you can do that, you have the right location, you have what everyone else has, and now you have the X factor to give someone a reason to pick you over 99% of the other property. That might be
X factor is like a hot tub or what?
Yeah, it could be like a pickleball court. It could be maybe it's a mountain view that very few other properties have. It could be a unique stay. Maybe it has like a putt-putt course, hammocks, like something like you have to notice something that you can
ski in, ski out.
Yeah, something that, or an amenity that you can add. Maybe it's an area that doesn't have many pools and you have one that does have a pool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a big family vacation market. Maybe you build like this sick jungle gym playset area for kids. It just depends on the market itself. But that's why you need to create that buy box. And if you execute on that and you provide all the right amenities plus some over the top ones, that's where you start to have absurd cash flow that everyone looks online at you and says, that's BS. There's no way you're making that, but you are.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing pretty well with it. So you want to break into like those numbers or anything like that and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. In terms of just what do you want to know?
I guess like what you're doing in your personal portfolio, and then how your management portfolio is doing overall. If you're comfortable talking about it, if you're not, that's okay too.
Yeah, for sure. So last year with 7 properties, we cracked $1 million in gross rental income.
Wow.
which is, we're definitely focused more on quality over quantity because I'd rather honestly own less just with big cash flow. And then the last two acquisitions we've made, we've gone a little bit more of what I'll call the Airbnb method. So do a decent amount of either cosmetic or maybe bigger rehab, have the opportunity to then rent it out as a short-term rental, refi if we want to pull equity out of the deal, and then repeat. So that is the Burr method, but I just think it's basically the Burr on steroids when you do short-term rentals to the cash flow.
For sure.
And what I like about it is the last two properties we bought, one we bought for $980K and one we bought for $1.25 million. They're both 6-bedroom properties, 6,700 square foot to 7,000 square foot. And we went crazy with amenities. So one has a pickleball court and both of them have home gyms, hot tubs, like all these crazy things, movie theaters. And it's so undeniably like crazy experience, sleeps 20 people. Like both of those properties will do over $400,000 in gross rental income annually. And one
what is that per night? Like just
per night, it ranges, obviously, but one's averaging over $1,500 a night. The other one will average closer to $2,000 a night. So weekends average over $2K a night, big holiday stuff like that, $3K a night. And then midweeks will go down to fill gap days as low as probably like the bare minimum would be like $500 or $600 a night.
That's crazy. Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that we're talking about all this stuff because literally the way I build my houses are like if they're Airbnbs. So the house I'm in right now, I built from scratch in Kansas City on 11 acres. And I believe it is that unique experience. Like people get married here because it is so close to the airport. We're by all the hotels, but we're on 11 acres in a really pretty well-designed house that we built. And I was like, and I'm building a house in Florida at the same time. And both of them, I was like, okay, Airbnb in mind if I have to like go between both, right? If I decide that's what I'm going to do, I want to definitely hold on to both of them. And I'm thinking like some of these ones, you can't find a price point. You got to make your own price point. Like mine specifically, I'm like, there's no way it's worth $1,500 a night, or it's probably worth more, but like the top math is like $600. But sometimes you got to put out the price of what you believe it's worth, like in markets, and be a market maker. Have you had to deal with that before?
I mean, we did it a little bit in Asheville, as where our last two were. There were a few other properties that were performing 300,000+ a year. So we were like, the numbers still shape up very well, even like maybe slightly below them. But we knew the upside was 400K a year plus. So that's why we were like, it was justified spending all these extra money on these amenities, because now it's no one can compete unless they go set up a similar property. But one, it's hard to find a property that's for sale that has the land or the space inside to even do that at a decent price point. So my methodology is to buy a house that is, sub or around $1 million and then turn it into a property that rents like a $4 or $5 million house does. If you're able to do that, now you're paying the note on something that's a quarter of the expense or 20% of the price, but it rents like a monster luxe home. And I think one of my buddies John Bianchi, I give him a shout out here. He does.
I've heard that name.
He does data. He does like the head data guy for TechVestor, and they do the big short-term rental fund. But he coaches in my group some. And basically, he calls it the Burger King method, which you're basically seeing where all these properties are performing well. It's like Burger King. They see where McDonald's spends all their marketing dollars, and then they open up a catty corner across the street. So all the data is there to do it. And then he also says, okay, well, and I totally agree with this because this is exactly what I do, is what are you going to spend money on that has an ROI associated with it? A lot of people who normally invest in real estate will redo the bathrooms, redo the kitchen. That's not always going to give you the highest ROI. It's probably going to be more dollars spent on amenitizing the outdoor space or turning a garage into an additional bedroom or a theater room or a home gym. So a lot of people are like, well, if I just redo the kitchen, the bathrooms, this, that, and the other, it's like those costs really add up. But the thing is you might have a nicer kitchen, but guess what? Guess how many properties have a kitchen? 100% of them.
No, you're 1,000% right. 1,000% right. Like we did this in New Orleans. Everything had an outdoor space with a barbecue and a TV and a like area. And we caught on quick to just differentiate ourselves. And that was a high bachelorette party area out there. And you had a bunch of, it's interesting, that market, but like everything that Michael has said is true, just for those of you guys who are listening, because I've lived it, I've seen it, and you're just putting it a lot more concise and easy to digest than I've ever heard anybody say. But he's truly right, because even the one we had next door, our property, $1,000 a night. The next property, $300 a night. Just ours was way better, way nicer, way more finishes, outdoor space, the whole kit and caboodle. Same thing with our other properties. When we added that extra space, once we figured that out, higher rents, and then I think the final dagger is just being able to manage those reviews and stuff like that. And really, when you're dealing with a different class of people, and I'm sure you maybe started off a little bit smaller, but like it's so much easier to make up for your losses too, and go on a good streak versus if you have like these $50 don't add up that quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Like one big booking can impact an entire month in a way that a smaller property can. That's why I've enjoyed doing the bigger properties. If I can manage one property that has the same cash flow potential as 6 smaller ones, I'd rather manage one property because I have 1/5 of the check-ins or 1/6 of the check-ins, right? 1/6 of the guest interaction, maybe even less, because if they're bigger properties in vacation markets, it might be 7-day-long stays instead of multiple throughout the week. So now I have potentially like 4 to 6 check-in and check-outs and groups of guests a month instead of like 10 to 15 or 20 even. So it is really quite nice, like less turns, less to do with the cleaners, in terms of quantity of cleans and turns. But the bigger ones, they definitely hit different when you get a booking for like 15 grand for a week-long vacation.
Versus like
it covers the mortgage, you're cash flowing on one reservation, so.
It's exciting stuff for sure. I mean, like in Naples, I don't know if you've ever checked out that market, but like it is insanity. Like I don't even know. Same thing, like just a furnished rental online, like ours goes for 30 to 40 G's a month. And I'm like, I don't know what it will Airbnb for. I have no idea.
Yeah. People spend buku money down there in like the busy season. A lot of like snowbirds will come down and corporate rentals. I mean, they rent for crazy. Same in Fort Lauderdale. It's nuts.
It's insanity, man. So, all right. So I know we're getting short on time. So kind of to like, to wrap some things up, I wanted to like, you kind of leave with some next steps for people and then finish off with like, what are your next things? Cause I see this just being the beginning as fast as you scaled, like where's your dream world going? If you get there, great. But obviously you're in a spot that is fantastic just the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, where I'm going, like I'm definitely focused on, just my wife and I's vision. It's not so much, hey, I want to make this amount of money per year. That's really more of creating the lifestyle we want that's sustainable, and what type of income do we need to support that lifestyle or support this want or need or cause that we want to be involved in, and then figure out how to build whatever is necessary to get there. One thing she really wants is a plane, which I kept putting her pushback on. But last week we drove 4.5 hours to Chapel Hill to spend time with my parents and her mom with our daughter, and having a toddler strapped to a car seat for close to 10 hours in a 4-day period. I'm like, how much does a plane cost? Because you eventually get to the point where like, how much else could we do if we could eliminate the time? So it started to get me thinking like, man, that would be pretty sweet to have just a little plane to go fly around and save some time and be able to do more cool stuff. So that was more of like a shiny.
I didn't pass that test. I tried to do that in 2012. I didn't have the cojones to do it. Like it was time to solo, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want it that bad. Like,
I'll get plenty of pushback until we ever act. We'd have to be making so much money to where it was like not even a drop in the bucket type of thing, and more just like pure convenience. But that would be more of a lofty goal, and the reason behind it is
I got the same one. Yeah, I love it, dude.
Yeah, but yeah, other than that, man, I'm just focused on growing the businesses. Really focused on home team vacation rentals. Currently, we're the fastest growing management company in the U.S. That has over 100 properties under management, and it's been great. We've grown a lot organically through acquisition. We do a turnkey service where we go find properties for people, furnish them. My design company set them up and manage them. And then the design company's been blowing up. Last year we designed over 150 properties across the U.S. This year is going to be more than that. So it's pretty cool just to help other people set up kick-ass properties that rent really well.
And it's cool to see you do that all off of one idea. It's like, and then monetize the other things. And it's neat to watch your experience. I can tell you that you're a super smart guy, that you know what you're doing and you execute. And like, it all comes down to executing and taking action, right? Like, even if you make a ton of mistakes, like you got to just stick with it. Like,
I thought I knew a lot like 3 or 4 years ago. That's the funny part, and then now you look back like, man, I was kind of stupid a couple years ago. But what if I knew that then, if I knew I really didn't truly know that much then, I would have never taken action. So you have to have a little bit of, like, not stupidity, but like,
totally. No, I think that's the word.
Smart, what is the term a lot of people use for entrepreneur?
Self-belief.
Delusional. But in a good, I guess that's self-belief, but delusional in like, oh, I could do this, that's no problem. Or like, I know enough to get started. And, you just have to know enough to be dangerous. You're going to learn so much and figure out so much stuff in any business or investment you're actually doing. Because you can learn everything you need to on a paper to ace a test. But in real life practice, you're still not going to know probably enough.
Sorry, dude. I knew like one time he's going to go off.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I tell that, I know you coach people as well, but I'm like, like we could talk about this till we're blue in the face, but until you actually go out and get your first property, get your first deal, A, it's not going to be real. B, your mind is going to be blown once your confidence is built and you have proof of concept, like whether that's a big, chunk of money coming in through an Airbnb or whether that's flipping a property or buying a rental. But like the self-belief and the self-confidence that comes from actually doing something for yourself as a human being, providing for your family, not having to worry about the job, not having to worry about getting fired, and realizing that you're actually in control, good or bad, is really gratifying. And then it's cool to have your kids watch you and everything like that. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing your story. How do people follow you? How do they get a hold of your business if they want management and stuff like that, Michael?
Yeah, honestly, the easiest way is just to message me on Instagram. I respond to pretty much every message. It's just at Elefante6. And make sure it's the one with the little blue check mark, because Instagram's pretty wild with bots and spam accounts. Unfortunately.
Yeah, man, they make money off that or something because they have they don't have a problem shutting it down until you get the blue check mark. You're pretty much, and thank God they make it easy, even though they're charging. But like to get it before was such a joke.
They should have just done that regardless. It's great business for them. Now they can make a bunch of money selling, the subscription for verification, which they should have been able to do that for free in the first place, in my opinion, versus like some celebrity status check. But
it was so stupid before. It was like a black market. I was
like 100%. You had to go spend all this money for placements in Forbes and all these other things, which is kind of BS in my opinion. Once I realized that that's all just a money game and whoever's willing to pay for it will get in those articles, unless you're like a massive celebrity. Yeah. It's crazy.
Leave none of what you see and half of what you read. There's a lot of, and I think you're a real guy, and it's so important to we have had people on this podcast and I'm like, yo, we're not airing that one. Like that person was fake. And sometimes, you can tell with and I think, with social media, there's a lot of fakers. I didn't realize that people would actually have the balls to get on and sell a product that they don't know, they don't have, they've never done, and they're just going to take your money.
That's the problem, though, is people do see that you can make good money, but it's not going to be sustainable for most people, because then all of a sudden people are going to figure out either you don't know what you're talking about or it's not a valid service. But it's a problem for people who are serious about the business, like myself and you, who actually have an actual business, employees, a team, success, coached tons of people, because then we're perceived as scammers, and it's like, people have no problem that don't even know you don't know anything but your business to say it. And I get why they say that, though, is because they see everyone and their mother out there now that are just selling a product. So you definitely have to build, if you want to make a lot of money in the coaching and mentorship space, you have to really build a solid foundation for yourself, proof of concept, and not just show that you can do it, but show that you can give results to someone else. And if you can do that, you can have a great business.
Yeah, you have to be able to show it. And then at the same point in time, the biggest problem, I'm sure you've found out as well, is that not everybody's going to do it. And that is something, even when I pay for coaching, there's been coaching I've paid for where I haven't taken action on it before. It's just and so, but as a coach, my first thought was I did something wrong. But it's if you give your best to everybody, that's all you can do. I appreciated our time. It was good getting to know you, Michael. And I really appreciate you guys listening to the entire podcast. Michael dropped a ton of nuggets. If you're in the Airbnb space, this is pause, repeat, replay that, because there's just a lot of golden nuggets that I don't think a lot of people really talk about when I ask a direct question that Michael was so willing to articulate. So I appreciate you coming on the show. And I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening in. Appreciate your time, Troy.